All right, so I want to do this video. Is most research, published research, actually wrong? So if you don't know who I am Professor Dave Maslach. I'm Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship, and I create this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people help me out that I want to pay the favor forward to help you out. Quick answer, no, most published research is not wrong. There's actually a lot that goes on behind it, but we have a special guest. Actually, Jack, my son, would like to come on to the YouTube channel for the first time. I don't know if you want to come over and say hi, Jack.
Hi.
It's so weird.
I'm talking to
a laptop. I know. It feels so weird. And you know what? The funny thing is that, like, when you see it now, nobody is going to see it, but because it stays up there forever and ever and ever, lots of people end up seeing it. So that's how this stuff works. So it's kind of bizarro. I don't know. You have anything to say?
No.
No. All right. So Jack might end up coming on and off every once in a while. He's decided that he doesn't mind being in front of the camera every once in a while, and he's having some troubles. Anyways, and hopefully this is going to be a little bit more part of my life and stuff like that to see some of these things. So is most published research wrong? No, it's just that it's really difficult to understand what the world is, and you have to sort of think about how we make sense as human beings as making sense of the world, right? So we look at information that's around us, and then we try to deduce or we try to induce actually what sort of patterns are underlining the world. But the collective scientific effort is really a larger sort of inductive process. It's we're supposed to sort of do deductive learning, where we sort of look at basic ideas and we try to get insights from that. But most scientists actually don't do that. Actually, there's a fancy term called abduction. But anyways, I won't get into those things. But really, what it is coming to sense and trying to understand the world. It is not absolutely perfect, but it's better than what we already have. One of the challenges that you often see or have heard about probably in the last few years is that there's all these replication studies that have come out that are showing that it's really actually difficult to study or to replicate some of these research findings. And that's my puppy growling in the background if you hear that. But what is going on is it's often with those studies is that they're pulling one finding and one result. Usually it's the main result, and then they're trying to replicate that particular thing because these research studies are really intense, are really in depth. Often that there's lots of different moving parts to them, and you have to sort of realize that it's a lot more challenging to get these things published because of these different moving parts. It's not just one finding typically; it's many different findings. So every once in a while there are scientific studies that are invalid, and it's degrees of sort of invalidness. There's some that are really, really invalid, but those typically don't ever get published. They're really, really invalid. Sometimes they do, but most of the ones, it's percentages, right? So 99.99% are actually pretty okay, and then there's few that get through, and then of those there's sort of findings that are not necessarily all that good. So how does this all work? Well, we don't just base findings, scientific knowledge on one study alone, right? We have to craft a story to explain what's going on, of what's what is really truly going on there. So it's actually really tough, and what we're looking for is this sort of collective effort, this sort of group of theories and ideas that sort of make sense about the world. And so that's called actually the nomological network. What we tend to do is base insights on the sort of coherent logic of how things work. And every once in a while, we sort of venture beyond that, and we don't get those ideas that great, and then we have to sort of self-correct, right? So the scientific effort actually self-corrects this stuff. Now, the other thing you have to realize is that there is actually a lot of trust that's built into, just like the real world, right? The whole scientific effort has a lot of trust that's built into it. And the trust is that everybody is doing their job and doing good research and doing good science, But many times, a lot of people don't do that, right? That there's incentives and political efforts and things like that to encourage researchers to do poor research, to do it as quickly as they possibly can. That's one of the problems with the whole tenure system, that sort of encourage people to do research very quickly, is that it incentivizes people to not be as careful, right? So we do have to be very skeptical, and that's the key thing, is that lots of people are really skeptical, even though if we see a finding, a result that was too unusual, sort of from face validity in the real world, we would probably discount it anyways, right? But then we have to sort of investigate what's going on. So this effort to do replication studies, what has been going on right now, it's actually really good, because lots of people sort of stated that this was fact, but really we have to understand that science is about sort of a probabilistic understanding of what the world is, and sometimes it's not great, and sometimes it's good, and most of the time it's pretty good, right? We're looking at we have a better sense of what we understood before, and there's a coherent logic behind what we understood before. So the other thing you have to understand is that understanding that there is like a true world is a real big assumption. Like there is a external world behind us. It's the whole philosophy of science and stuff. But it's something that we really consider that might not be true, right? That there is a sort of real world that's outside of us, and we have to sort of think about what that actually means. And that there is a lot of skepticism around these kind of things, right? So we think about it, and we're just really, really thoughtful. So does the whole scientific effort, should you be throwing it out? Absolutely not. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to validate and make sure that things are right. And even if it's validated, a lot of scientists are still very skeptical of many different things if it just doesn't make sense. We often have to have that sort of combined knowledge of what we read and what we understand, but then as well as thinking of what is what is it that we actually see in the real world, right? That's the important thing, and we're always sort of exploring and testing these things. So with that, give me a thumbs up if you like this, and hopefully we're going to start seeing more of Jack. Thanks. All right, take care. Bye.